I think at this point, a number of people have heard of Knights vs. Giants and just how addictive it is. I know that my boy JP did a live stream on Good Talk HQ. I know that SwitchUp had talked about it, and they had said it's incredibly addictive. How they talked about it so early, I don't know, but that's not my point. I am talking about it incredibly late because I'm lazy, or because my daughter likes to monopolize my time, and I don't get very much sleep when she's around, which is, always. So anyway, Knights vs. Giants is a really fun game, and I think that cannot be understated, yet I also believe that it's been said enough. The thing that really makes it good, though, and makes it fun is its accessibility. You see, these type of roguelike games are never good for me. Games like Hades or Dead Cells or any of these really roguelike type games always end up in me dying a lot. But what I found really surprising with Knights vs. Giants is I outpaced the story. Like, I was doing things before it was requiring me to do so to move on in the game. I actually got to the Void Giant on my third or fourth run, and if you don't know, the Void Giant is kind of the culmination of all the giants you fight. So for those unaware, this game is about the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, Merlin, and as we enter the story, we actually see Merlin in a very panicked state because he has caused something to happen, a catastrophic event to happen. In fact, he had ordered the knights to go on a mission that ended up releasing this ultra evil being, and it was essentially an evil giant that basically just ran through all of the knights, killing them relatively quickly. King Arthur was one of the last standing in Camelot that actually defended Camelot, but still he was no match for this giant. In a last-minute desperation, Merlin transported Camelot to what they called a void dimension, and it seems to be between worlds. It's sort of a safe space for Merlin to kind of figure things out before he can return Camelot to its rightful home. But the problem is he has no warriors, everyone's dead. So he uses some incredibly powerful magic to resurrect King Arthur. Now apparently it was due to the time in which King Arthur had been dead, and I don't know how he resurrected him and not the other knights as well, but I think it had to do with proximity plus how long he'd been dead. Something in that range. So as Arthur, we have to return to our homeland and destroy all these monsters and these evil demons and these giants. As these giants also die, they don't fully die and they pass some of their power on to the next giant until they become the culmination of all that, which is the Void Giant. And we have to kill all these things in order for Camelot to return back home. But at the same time, we need help. And so while we're out on our runs, we can actually find a lot of people who used to live in Camelot. Most of them being integral parts of the society itself, like blacksmiths, record keepers, sculptors, but we also find a few other individuals who are really interesting. Some who are kind of known as the first builders. They actually speak a divine language and we don't completely understand who they are. We do know that they were brought here by the creator. And also on our runs, we can find a merchant who seems to never die, and Morgana, another character who is basically a merchant of sorts. With the help of the builders, we can resurrect some of these buildings and put people back to work, and in turn, give ourselves some more resources. Helping the blacksmith bring back his shop actually helps upgrade weapons that we can use. And yet also we can build walls and courtyards and things like that that might seem kind of frivolous, but actually upgrade the kingdom. And when you think about it, the kingdom's going to need its walls before it goes back into this world of monsters. And one thing I forgot to mention, during this whole calamity, Excaliber got destroyed. So you might say, well, what is King Arthur using to fight these monsters? Well, he's actually using the weapons and counsel of the Knights of the Round Table. Yes, they are departed, but they live on through these statues. And at the beginning of the game, you're able to speak with Lancelot and Bors. Now, Lancelot has, of course, a sword that he's pretty quick with. Most of it is speed and dexterity, as where Bors has throwing knives. And if you're like me, you go sword first, and you find out that that's kind of a mistake. The best weapon so far that I've found is the throwing knives, one of the first weapons you can unlock. Although if you want to unlock more knights, all you have to do is find the sculptor, build up her place so that she can sculpt new statues. And while you're on your runs, you'll find remnants of other knights. You bring them back to her and she can sculpt these teleportic statues that are able to bring the spirits of the knights back to you so that they can counsel you and let you use their weapons. It's a really cool idea to give you more of an upgrade and give you more of a path. Like I said though, I myself kind of didn't feel this was, worth it just because of how great the throwing knives get to be. You see, what I did is when I run with my character, I of course take the throwing knives, and I basically focus on attack power and multiplying the knives. If I can get 12 knives coming out of me, like some kind of crazy porcupine, then I'm in a good place. And I'm just flinging knives everywhere. As they're becoming stronger, they also then have, you can pick up the ability to cause stun, to cause poison, and you're constantly inflicting your enemies with different debuffs while you're also hitting them at the same time. You can really just super power King Arthur to just be a beast. And I had that experience many times on these runs, and I noticed that it was so much easier to do this with the throwing knives, only just because it gets you past that first hump. Maybe the first giant is kind of a pain, but once you get past that, it's pretty easy going for quite a while. And one thing I really did like about it as well is sometimes I would be on a run and just feel like this is taking too long. So after you defeat a giant or a monster and you're transported to a different biome, then you can quit if you want. You can turn off your Switch and then come back to it later. You can actually even play a different game and then come back, and it'll put you right at that biome where you left off. And I think that's pretty cool, because there was quite a few times, I had a run that was about 3.5 hours. And for me to be able to just sit still for 3.5 hours is, difficult to say the least. So it did give me a chance to, if I had to, take care of my daughter, or if I just felt like playing something else for a second, kind of getting out of that fast-paced action without losing my progress. Because see, that's my issue with a lot of roguelikes, is I don't want to lose my progress. If I'm on a deep run, I may not be able to do that again, and I just don't want to lose that. So I did appreciate that. I'm not saying other games don't have that, by the way. I'm just saying that that's something I did appreciate with this game. Now, I will say though, towards the end of these runs, especially with my throwing knives and, having the dexterity of an octopus while causing explosions and poison and weak, and there's tons of enemies all over the screen and they're jumping around and they're doing their thing, we caused a lot of lag. I mean, there were times where I felt like the game might actually just give up. It was nah, I've had enough, I'm checking out. It got really bad. Now, I will say though, everything stops, so it doesn't actually hurt you. I never took any damage because of this, but I did question if it was going to keep going. I really, like I said, thought it was just going to check out, or going to have a full-blown crash. And again, that never happened, but it is nice that if it does happen, the enemies aren't moving while you're just stuck there. At least that's been my experience. And to be honest, I don't know if they can actually fix this problem on the Switch. I mean, I'm only speculating, but it's been my experience that when this much chaos is going on a Switch cartridge in handheld mode, the Switch just can't hold on, and it ends up having to lag or eventually, crashing. Even No Man's Sky, I had the same issue. And again, I just think that might be the limitation of the hardware in general. But I don't know, I could be completely wrong. Everything else on the game is just really fluid, and that sounds weird to say when I'm just talking about massive lags, but you actually get used to that as well. I don't know, it's weird to say, but you almost predict it, and it's kind of easy to maintain, which is another weird thing to say. But as I said before, I never had any issues as far as my own performance because of these lags, and early on in the game, you don't really have this problem, so it's not that much of an issue. Now, as I said before, if I was to advise anyone who's going to play the game, I would actually say die more often. You see, because I ended up going through a lot of crap to have to then redo the same crap over and over. And that was the part that for a while got to be a little monotonous to me. I was ready to move on because I'd been through these biomes so many times, and I was ready to basically just beat the void giant and see what happens after that. But the game required me to still collect things in those first couple biomes, and it's not a huge issue. It just becomes monotonous after a while. But if I'm being honest, this is a game that kind of reminds me of Wreckfest in a way. And why I say that is because it's going to be a game that I'm going to beat 100%. I've been really enjoying it and just having fun with it. It's one of those turn off your brain kind of games, and I've really been enjoying that. Yeah, having TV on or listening to music while also playing the game. It's just been right at home, and it's just perfect synergy for that kind of gaming, and I love that kind of gaming. So I would definitely recommend it. If I was going to give it a score, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think that there's limitations to the game. I think it could become repetitive and redundant, and that's the reason why I wouldn't give it much higher than at max maybe an 8 out of 10, which I still think is a really good score. And I'm having a ton of fun playing it, so I would definitely put this on your wish list or check it out if you're interested. Anyway though, that's it for me guys. I appreciate the heck out of y'all. I love each and every one of you. Take care everyone. Bye bye.